Welcome to Oxford Online Practice. To get started, you'll need a desktop computer or laptop. This can be Windows or a Mac, or an Apple or Android mobile device. An internet connection, an access code. You can usually find this in your teacher's book. Students can usually find their access code in their course books. How to register and sign into Oxford Online Practice. Find the website for your online practice in your book and type the address into your browser. Sign in using your Oxford ID username and password. Oxford ID is the name of the account that you use to access your Oxford University Press materials, such as the Oxford Teachers Club, Oxford Learn, Oxford Learners Dictionaries, and Oxford Learners Bookshelf. If you don't have an Oxford ID, select Register to create one. Choose your language from the list and enter your email address. You'll need to enter your email address twice to make sure it's spelt correctly. Then select Continue. How to use your access code. Both you and your students will need an access code for the online practice. You can usually find your access code on your access card in your teacher's book. Your students can usually find their access card in the course books. Teachers and students use their access codes in the same way. Choose your account type, then enter your access code. You only need to enter the numbers of your code. Choose Check Code. You will see the course name, account type, and how long you'll have access to the online practice. To complete your registration, enter your name. Choose your country from the list and enter a password. Tick the box to agree to the terms and conditions, then choose Complete Registration. Now that you've created your Oxford ID, you can use online practice anytime by signing in with your Oxford ID username and password. How to set up your class. You can create classes and add your students if you'd like to. Sign in with your Oxford ID username and password. On the home screen, select Create a Class. Type a name for your class and select Create Class. Your class will be given a class ID code. Students can use this code to join your class. Students can join the class when they register their online practice accounts, or do this at any time afterwards. If you'd like to add students to the class yourself, you can do this straight away. To add students, you'll need each student's full name, each student's email address, and each student's online practice access code if you have them. Access codes are optional and can be added by the students themselves later if you don't have them. On the next screen, select a template file to use. This will usually be the Excel template, but you can also use a CSV file if you prefer. The template will open with some sample information. Delete the sample information before you start adding your students. Type your students' first and last names into columns A and B. In column C, type students' email addresses. If any students already have an Oxford ID account, enter their existing Oxford ID username. In column D, enter a password for each student to use. This password will allow each student to sign in to online practice. Students will need to set their own password after signing in for the first time. In column E, type your students' access codes if you have them, exactly as they are shown on the access cards. You can leave this column blank if you want to, and students can add their own access codes when they sign in and choose their course level. They will then automatically join your class. Save the file to your computer. On the online practice website, select Upload your file. Find your file on your computer and select Open. You will be able to see when your students have signed in and joined the class. Give each student their Oxford ID username and password from your file. Each student will be able to sign in with the details you have set for them and use their Oxford Online Practice. If you don't have all of the information you need to add students to your class, don't worry. You can always ask students to join with your class ID code. You'll find the code at the top of the edit screen for your class. How to access and lock and unlock activities for your students. As a teacher, you can choose which activities your students can access and which they can't. This is done by locking and unlocking activities as you work through the course. Sign in using your Oxford ID username and password. From your home screen, select the class name. Choose a unit on the left and select the lock icon. You can then choose to lock the whole unit, sets of activities within the unit, or individual activities by clicking on the toggle buttons to the right of each subheading or activity. You can also set the date and time that content can be unlocked and made available to students with the calendar feature. This is useful for setting homework for a particular day or for setting activities as a test to be accessible for a limited period of time. When you click on the toggle button to lock either a whole unit, set of activities, or individual activity, a calendar and clock icon appears. Click on the calendar icon in the open field to select the date you want the content to be unlocked. Then click on the calendar icon in the close field to select the date you want the content to lock again. Click on the clock icon in the open field to select the time you want the content to be unlocked. Then click on the clock icon in the close field to select the time you want the content to lock again. Students will automatically have access to the locked activities between those dates and times. Choose Save to make the changes. To unlock the units or activities, choose the lock icon and then click on the toggle button of the locked units and activities. How students access and use activities. Students access the activities from their account. Students sign in using their Oxford ID username and password. On the student's home screen, they can select Go to Practice under the book title. They choose a unit, then select an activity to answer. When they have finished the activity, they choose Check Answers to view their score and see the correct answers. They can select Try Again to have another go or Next Activity to move on. How students check their progress. With Oxford Online Practice, students can choose activities to answer, check their scores, and keep track of their progress for each unit. Students sign in using their Oxford ID username and password. On the student's home screen, they can select Go to Practice under the book title. They can see how many activities they have attempted in each unit. They can change the way they see their scores. They can select the Show options and choose First Attempt to see scores for their first attempts at each activity, or Last Attempt to see their most recent scores for each activity. They can select the Scores option to choose Percent to see their scores as a percentage, or they can choose XY to see their scores out of the maximum marks available. At the bottom of the screen is a progress overview. This shows students the total number of activities they've done, their overall score, and how much time they've spent on completing the activities. They can also see their progress in each online practice skill that they have worked on. Students can print their scores table by selecting the print icon at the top of the screen. How to see your students' progress. When your students have started completing activities, you can see their scores and progress for each unit. Sign in using your Oxford ID username and password. Choose your class name from your home screen. Select the Unit tab on the left to look at your students' progress in a particular unit. To see the progress of an individual student, select the Student tab. You'll see the student's overall progress for each unit. You can change the way you see your students' scores if you want to. Select the Show options and choose First Attempt to see scores for the students' first attempts at each activity, or Last Attempt to see students' most recent scores for each activity. Select the Scores options to choose Percent to see students' scores as a percentage, or choose XY to see students' scores out of the maximum marks available. Select the Download icon to download your students' scores in an Excel file. Select the Print icon to print the scores table. Some activities might need to be marked manually by you. If an activity in the student's gradebook is showing as submitted, the student has submitted an activity that you need to review and mark. Select the relevant activity in the student's gradebook to review the student's work. Add a score and an optional feedback comment. Click the Send button to send the score and feedback to the student. The student will be notified and be able to see their score and comment in the activity. How to access and use messages and discussions. You can send messages to students in your class. Students can also send messages to you or to other students in the class. You can also set up discussions for your students to take part in. You have the option to turn messages and discussions on or off for a class at any time. They are turned off by default. To turn them on, sign in using your Oxford ID username and password. Choose the Edit button next to the class you want to use messages and/or discussions for, then choose the Class Communication button. Click on the toggle button to show discussions and show messages if you want to use these features with your class. The Messages and Discussions buttons will then be visible in the toolbar on the left. To send a message to your students, choose the class name, then choose Messages on the left. Select New Message, then choose Add, and choose the students you want to send your message to. Enter a subject for your message. Type your message. To change the formatting of all or part of your message, choose Format at the bottom of the screen. Then choose from the options. To attach a file to your message, choose Attach at the bottom of the screen. Then find the file on your computer. You can attach files up to the maximum file size of 10 megabytes. When you have finished your message, choose Send in the bottom right corner. As a teacher, you can see all messages sent within your class, including messages between students, and you can delete them if needed. To do this, choose Moderator. Choose a message from the list to see the full message. Click the Delete button if you want to delete it. To set up a discussion with your class, select the class, then select Discussions on the left to start or view the discussion. Discussions allow your students to talk about other topics covered in their online course. There are two types of discussion for most courses: class threads and course threads. To add a new discussion, select New Thread. Starting a discussion thread is much like sending a message to your students. Enter a subject for your discussion. Type your message. To change the formatting of all or part of your message, select Format at the bottom of the screen, then select from the options. To attach a file to your message, select Attach, then find the file on your computer. You can attach files up to the maximum file size of 10 megabytes. When you're finished, select Send to post your discussion thread. To view your students' discussions, select the type of thread you'd like to see, then select a thread. To add to a thread, select Add Comment in the bottom right corner. As a teacher, you can also delete any discussion thread by clicking on the Delete button within the thread. How to access and use resources. To see the resources available for your level, sign in using your Oxford ID username and password. Select your class, then select Resources on the left. Choose a resource you want to use, such as tests, worksheets, teaching notes, course audio and video. Some resources can be downloaded and used offline. Select the Download button to download the resource to your device. Others can only be used while you are connected to the internet.
Hey Jack, what do you want to do on Saturday?
Let's go to an exhibition.
Need more help? Click the Help icon in your Oxford Online Practice website, or you can send us an email: eltsupport@oup.com.